Hey guys, welcome. Let's give it another minute and then we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks for hopping on. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Thanks everyone for jumping on. So this week I wanted to really focus in on those new agents in the brokerage. And even if you're on today and not a new agent, I would suggest you could probably learn something from this hour as well. And so I wanted to do that because, and I mentioned this a lot during our initial exchange before an agent comes into White Rock, is that each agent typically approaches real estate a little bit differently than the next person. I mean, each person's version of success is slightly different. And some agents, come to the brokerage or come to real estate with a knack for how to do this. Some people are totally lost, and some people are kind of in the middle. And so I wanted to just kind of walk through, and I would love anyone's input as I'm going along, especially if you are new. I think, absent of an actual panel like we did for the investor forum a couple of weeks ago, I'm really going to rely on you guys to kind of chime in and provide some color to what I'm talking about. So let's talk about mindset first. So ask yourself, why did you get into real estate? And these are answers that I have actually heard pretty consistently from a lot of agents. A lot of times they mention they want to help people, and they will literally oftentimes cite money as last on their list. But I'll get to that in a second. So a lot of people have a desire to help others. They like going into houses. They watch a lot of HGTV. That's okay, because a lot of the clients do too. A lot of people want to get into the investment side of it, flipping, buy and hold. And then lastly, like I said, money. And I don't think that there is any shame in citing money as a reason why you want to do real estate, because let's face it, a $250,000 home minimum is a $7,500 commission. And so that is not a small sum of money. And so I think that in the back of our minds, we're always thinking about, yeah, if I could get that one commission and then replicate that over and over and over again, man, that'd be a good living. And you would be right. And so do not be afraid to mention money as one of the reasons why you got into this. Does anybody have any different reason that is not listed here?
Because of HGTV. That's why I got. That's why I'm wanting to get out of construction.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Well,
Hey, Brad, I got something to add. I actually talked to a real estate agent yesterday, and they didn't realize that they could buy a home and use their commissions towards the down payment. So I share that because sometimes people do get their real estate license because they want to become an investor, and for that exact reason. So
yep. Yeah, for sure. And I think I've mentioned that. I mentioned that when we had the investor panel. Is that I just wanted to get into more homes quicker. And to your point, yeah, I mean, if you have a license and you can leverage your commission against that sale, absolutely, absolutely. So what did it take to get your license? So you fill out an application on TREC's website. You paid a fee to go to school. You crammed a lot of very, very critical information in a very short amount of time. You studied for the test. You passed the test. And you found a sponsoring broker. And then someone, Cheryl, thank you. Cheryl chimed in and said she was looking for flexibility as to why she got her real estate license. That's a good one. That's one I often hear as well. So thank you for that. And so this is the process that you went through to get your license. Now, you guys have to imagine that I talk to a lot of people. It is not unusual for me to have 10 appointments every week. And this week was similar to that. And I brought on 5 new people. And you can kind of tell right away those that either A, don't really have a knack for the business, or B, once they do come on, present company excluded, of course, you begin to discover that this taking the test piece, they just studied for the test. They really didn't absorb the information. And believe me, I'm the first one to tell you that there's a lot of, dry information that you have to learn when you're getting your test. But when this is all done, did you truly feel prepared to go be a realtor? Probably not, right? So did you realize that this is an eat what you kill business, meaning that if you don't sell something, you don't eat, right? It's like any commission sales job. Did you realize that? Did you realize there was still a lot to learn? Did you realize you had to actually talk to people? This is very much a contact sport. Did you realize you desperately need to get organized in order to stay focused, especially in today's world? Did you realize the ramp up time? And did you realize that there was going to be a learning curve? Now, I will pause here real quick, and I can't tell you how many folks I interview and they tell me that they already have people that are, wanting to use them to in a real estate transaction. And while that is awesome, and they want to, hit the ground running, there is a learning curve to this, because everything that you learn to get your license is not necessarily what you need to learn to service a client. Agreed? Right? So, but did you also realize how personally gratifying it is to get someone the home of their dreams? So whether you are doing this on a retail side or if you are an investor, that is the end result anyway. If you're an investor, you probably entered into the transaction hoping to make some money. And while that is awesome, you are providing housing for somebody that would probably not have gotten it otherwise. And Jeff can attest to this, I'm sure, and some of you other investors. What you buy has hair on it. what you end up selling it to somebody looking like is like a model home. And that is something to be proud of. And so whether you're an investor or just representing somebody on the retail side, you are providing someone the American dream. And that can be very, very gratifying. Did you also realize how much money you can actually make? This is a get-rich business. It is not a get-rich-quick business, but it is a get-rich business in that there is no cap to how much money you can make. Did you also realize how systematic everything is and how fast you can learn based on repetition? And so what I mean by that is that if you are literally brand new today and you've not gone through any of our training, it probably feels like you are drinking from a fire hose. Well, like any job, eventually you're only really using a half a dozen or so contracts all the time. And there is a rhythm to what happens in this business, whether you represent a buyer or a seller. And depending on how you learn, that can be very comforting, because even though most people say, I love my job because there's something new about it every day. And believe me, real estate checks that box. But if you don't know the mechanics of real estate, man, it can seem like something different happens every minute because your knowledge just isn't there yet. And so if you are in that mindset today, don't worry, because over time and through repetition, you will be eating, sleeping, drinking these contracts and various conversations that you'll be having with clients. Did you also realize the thrill of working for yourself? And there's that flexibility piece that Cheryl mentioned earlier. Let me just go back. I mean, I've had a W-2 job for 40 years. And it is not until recently that I realized, A, how wonderful it is to work for myself, but B, how incredibly unlikely it will ever be that I ever go back to working for someone. Jeff, can I get an amen? And so if that is your goal, that can absolutely happen in real estate. Yes, there is flexibility here. No, it is not a 9-to-5 job, but there's a lot of hours put in, there's a lot of work, but you get to choose. And no one is over your shoulder telling you you don't measure up. That's what I like. Did you also realize literally everyone is either a potential client or a potential referral? Okay, that is the good and the bad of real estate, is that literally everyone is a potential client or a potential referral. Now, the good news is that not everyone can afford a home or should be in a home, so that makes our funnel that much more narrow. So here's my advice. Only compare yourself to the version of yourself you were yesterday. Okay, how many people on Facebook do we see posting at 1 o'clock in the morning about how hard they're working for their clients and how busy they are and just how, what smoking deal they got for somebody. And, just mind you, you're either famous or you're Facebook famous. One's real, one's not. And the people that need to be posting on Facebook about how wonderful they are not that wonderful. Okay. So please do not use those folks as your benchmark. You should be, this is a race. You are in your own lane. This is not a team sport. Okay. So just compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who somebody else is today. Okay, don't try to learn everything at once. There will be transactions that you never even enter into until it's time, and you don't know anything about that contract or anything about what questions you should ask. There is still a lot to learn. And so, the first couple of years are a lot of trial and error. All right, follow our training and our systems, and that is to say, the structure that I have in place. So here's the reality of how I created White Rock. When I had the RE/MAX office, which is now officially closed, thank the Lord, I had to replicate everything a big brand did for an independent brokerage. And then I had to say, how can I deliver all that remotely? And so all of what I've done is a result of trying to create a structure where you have resources that prevent you from asking questions that I've probably answered a lot of times. And so that's where a lot of the content comes from. It's because I've had this question over and over and over again. And so instead of answering that question all the time, I've created either a video or a framework or a structure. And so over time, I have created a culture where there is a very systematic approach, as much as there can be, to real estate. Okay, I'm going to go over that in a second, but I hope that those of you that are new do not feel like you don't know where to get stuff, or there's no structure, there's no process to it. It is a very iterative, here's what you do, step 1, step 2, step 3. But you got to just follow the process. Okay. My other advice, set up coaching with me to stay on track. So whether that is once a week, once a month, even on an as needed basis. Remember, I do this full time. I do not have my own clients. So I am literally here to provide coaching and mentorship and business development. So please take me up on it. Think of your business in terms of a year at a time and try and set goals by a quarter. So it won't be long before I do the 2022 business planning session. Say a prayer for me. Hopefully I won't have COVID this time. But, you know, I say it during those times too, where, you know, it's good to kind of kick off the year. But if you try and tell yourself that I sold 10 homes this year, I want to sell 20 next year, you're likely not going to get to that goal unless you make quarterly and monthly goals as well. The other thing I'll mention is that real estate is cyclical. Okay, March through October, we're going 90-0. But those off months are off months. And if you've set a goal to sell 10 homes in a year and you're staring down April and you haven't sold one, you know that May, June, July, August, September, you're going to probably sell your entire goal, just because that's when people buy and sell homes. So I mention that because if you're starting today, then you are heading into a slower time, which does not mean that you shouldn't jump in both feet. All I'm saying is that people aren't ready to sell right now or buy right now. And so all the efforts that you're building a foundation on should really be designed to answer the question, how is my year going to look? Not my month or my quarter, but how is my entire year going to look? And then remember, there are no shortcuts in any aspect that we do, right down to the technology. If you have not set up your templates and zip forms, you are creating more stress for yourself. That is an example of, you know, a shortcut that people don't want to bother with, and then they are scrambling with what contract to use for what transaction. Okay, and then realize that success in anything comes from 3 things: diligence, intelligence, and resilience. Diligence, hard work, got to put in the time, right? Work smart, not hard though. More hours does not necessarily mean more success. You got to be hardworking. Intelligence, you got to know and consume knowledge that makes you smarter and better at what you're doing. And then you've got to have resilience. You've got to be able to get knocked down, but get back up. Okay. Okay, Cheryl again. Thank you, Cheryl. I love the training process much more than I've seen with other brokers. God bless you. Thank you so much for that. So let me explain what you as a new agent, what your foundation is within our brokerage. So I've given everyone, hopefully, the onboarding checklist. And that's about 30 items. And everything on there really serves to save you time and save you stress. And I've begun to tell folks that have joined recently that you're going to sign up for stuff on there that, yes, you have access to, but you're going to have no idea how to use until you get deeper into the training process. So, but also on there are, like I mentioned here, setting up logins to all the software that you get with TAR and NAR, setting up your contract templates. As a rule, everything in bold on that checklist is designed to save you time and stress. Okay, so again, speaking to the structure and the iterative process that we have in place, please don't take those shortcuts. Those things are there to help you. All right, attend these weekly meetings, or at least go back and view the recordings. And I have about a 50% batting average, so half the folks actually show up, and half of you go back and watch the recordings, and some of you even comment that you've done that. And so I really appreciate that. You know, that's the luxury of having Zoom and being able to record those things. And so I think it also gives you a chance to pause and take notes, and we're in a live setting, you wouldn't be able to do that. And then go through every aspect of the 4-week training, even if you joined us as a part-timer, even if you joined us as an investor or someone that wanted to do commercial or farm and ranch. There are things on, so I wrote that training, and it was based on my personal experience, what I've gotten at other brokers, what I needed personally that I didn't get, and feedback from you guys. And so I have probably taken 90 days worth of stuff you could be doing and condensed it into 4 weeks. And why is that? Because I don't believe in a lot of fluff. I believe in, tell me what I need to know to learn this piece of material so that I can get to a closing. That is how I approach this brokerage. So every week in there is action-packed and designed to create a learning for you. And it is what I've mentioned before, literally your dry run before you get a client. So you are not going to find yourself doing anything in there that you're not going to have to do with a client. Okay, and then the coaching that I offer as well. So please take me up on that. Here is the training plan. So I just put up the first 2 weeks. You can kind of see I start off, people tend to gravitate to, you know, the content here, right? But you'll notice that I've put 2 important things on here. One is a little expression. So the secret of success: motivation will get you started, habit will keep you going. Both are your responsibility. Okay, and so I view my role as the office motivator and office inspirer to help you go do things you wouldn't necessarily want to go do yourself. And all of us get inspiration from different sources, but I do take that responsibility seriously for myself. But the second half of this quote is equally as important, because if you start real estate and don't realize the importance of establishing routine and habit, you're going to wake up a year from now and wonder why you're not further along than you are. And the good thing about real estate is that although it appears at first that no one is listening to you, meaning the clients, if you are habitually doing the things that you need to do to get to a closing, you're going to get a closing. Just plain and simple. Okay. So this is your learning cycle in years 1 and 2. You're going to learn by reading, you're going to learn by doing, and then you're going to fail a little, and then you're going to repeat this cycle over and over and over again. Okay. So you're going to learn by consuming content, you're going to learn by just jumping in, and then you're going to learn stuff by doing stuff the right way, doing stuff the wrong way, and then you're going to get smarter at your job, right? So if you started at a fast food restaurant and had no experience, and they put you on the fryer, and you didn't know how to use the fryer, and someone taught you, this is kind of what this is like. They're telling you how to work the fryer, then you got to do it yourself, and then you're going to get grease spattered all over yourself, and you're going to learn from that, and you're going to figure out how to dump the ice cold fries into the basket and not get burned, right? Same exact principle. Okay, so here's what you need to do daily. Consume educational content. In your first 2 years, there's plenty to consume, okay, just within our brokerage. And then engage in the practice of real estate. So I'm assuming you have no clients when I ask you to do this. And so what does that look like? You're going to visit new construction homes. They're there 8 to 5, 7 days a week, builder reps are. Attend an open house. Okay, I'm seeing more and more of these every weekend. They're out there. Preview homes. So that means set an appointment and showing time, practice opening up that lockbox, go in there, take your time and observe what homes are selling for, what upgrades people did, what is the next cool thing. And then attend a networking meeting, whether that be the Chamber of Commerce, Rotary, local business, club, whatever. So my thought in doing this and recommending this is that you are going to run out of people to call. I'll tell you that right now. And so, but you can't just sit around and wait for those people to call you back, because it rarely ever happens. And so see if this sounds familiar. If you are out there visiting open houses and talking to builder reps about new construction homes, don't you feel busy? Don't you feel productive? Don't you feel your confidence starting to grow? And so counter that with, if you don't do this, and maybe you started out your day with the best of intentions on doing all this stuff, but you end up doing nothing of it, and you maybe watch a little news and there's something about a murder or something heavy, and you end up doing nothing. And that isolation and that inactivity leads to these withdrawals in your confidence bank account. It breeds self-doubt. And so even though you may not have a client today, get out and act as if you do. And there's plenty of stuff you can do to do that. Because what I found is that by doing this, that miraculously the clients come. And so I've mentioned in past sessions with y'all, various ways to get business: open houses, FSBOs, expired listings, your sphere of influence. And I found that if I concentrate on, let's say, open houses, and I get no attendance, and they all just kind of seem to bomb, for whatever reason, just because I'm out there doing open houses, although that wasn't successful, I'll get a call, or I'll get a hit on the website, or something will happen that I didn't expect. And I truly believe it's because you're out there and engaged somehow. Okay. Next, add to and call people from your database. So this is the first time that I will mention database. So you need to have a repository for which you collect names and contacts of people that you want to get business from. Okay, so they might be a referral partner, they might be a direct prospect, but you need to really change your mindset, going back to everyone is a potential customer or a referral, and really truly think that way. I think I've mentioned before that I go to this networking meeting every week, and I can't tell you how many new people I meet, and they never have a business card. And I'm like, how do you show up at a networking meeting with no business cards? And so all that to say, you all need to carry your business cards in your car, big old stack of them. And it doesn't matter who you're interacting with, hand out that business card, and whoever you give that to should then go into your database. Worry about rating who they are to you later. If they're a potential customer, they go in that database. Okay, so here's what you need to get used to. Lots of other realtors to compete with. What I didn't put up here is there's a lot more that have no business possessing a real estate license. So I mentioned this yesterday. Do not convince yourself that what you're doing isn't working because everyone already knows a realtor. Okay, I know a lot of inspectors. I recommend two. That's just how the world works. And so don't assume that those other realtors are as committed, as successful, or are being recommended by people that you think that you know. That used to rejection, right? It is a numbers game. For every 20 to 25 prospects, you'll get one that is worth anything. Okay, so 25 to 1. Get used to hearing crickets after months of reaching out to people, okay, especially this time of year. It is going to get hot, hot, hot in February because that's when people start to really think about buying and selling. So do not be afraid to lay it all out there now. You're not going to hear anything likely, but that doesn't mean your content isn't getting consumed. Okay, get used to a friend not using you. Oh, cardinal sin. Hurts even worse when it's a relative. Hurts even worse when it's your spouse. It's horrible. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Especially when you're new. You know why? Because they don't see you as a realtor yet. They just don't see you as a realtor yet. You could know, you have a PhD in real estate. You're just not there yet. Get used to it taking longer than expected. What's it? Success, traction, response. Get used to getting discouraged. That's okay. That just means that you are learning. If you're not getting discouraged, then you're not being hard enough on yourself. I don't know anyone in this brokerage that isn't harder on themselves than someone else is. Get used to attracting clients and not chasing them. If you learn this lesson early, the quicker you will get to success. Because when you first start out, you think every lead is a good lead, and that is just not the case. So you've got to be consistent with your message and know that your audience will find you. Okay, so it is a lot better to attract the clients that you want to work with, and more importantly, want to work with you and not having to chase people. Okay, and if you start chasing people early on in the relationship, they don't want to sign the buyer's rep, or they, they ask you to go and show them a home and you say, okay, what time? And then they ghost you. Those are not people you want to work with. Okay, that's a hard lesson to learn. Okay? Get used to getting knocked down, but getting right back up again. Okay, got to have resilience. But also get used to a huge payoff after lots of efforts. And you're going to get to a point where there's a rhythm to this and there is no more mystery as to where you're getting clients. And you're going to think, man, I deserve to get paid this. I'm not cutting my commission. I work hard. Darn right. If you don't want to work with me, next. I'm worth the money. Okay, so step one is the where. Where am I going to get business? You've got to figure this out early on, or you are going to get very discouraged and very overwhelmed. So I propose two long-term sources and two short-term sources. So what are the short terms? Those are easy. By short term, I mean talk to the motivated. Who are the motivated? Expireds and FSBOs for listings and open houses for buyers. It's that simple. If you want to get a huge confidence boost and feel like you are getting anywhere in this business, go hit up expireds, FSBOs, and open houses. And I would suggest open houses first because it's very non-confrontational. Don't worry if the only person that shows up at an open house is the nosy neighbor. That means game on because they want to list their home. Okay, so the longer term examples might be vendors that you partner with, your database, your sphere of influence, your dentist, your kids soccer team coach, whatever. Those are people that you feel good about talking with because they already know, like, and trust you, but they may or may not have a need, and likely they won't, but they'll know someone who does. Okay, but you have got to choose at least two of each. And actually, let me rephrase that. Only choose two of each. Any more, you're going to get overwhelmed. Okay, but there is nothing wrong with sending out some expired letters. I've done an expired class before. Hit up 3 a weekend, do 2 open houses a month, and man, you are going to get business. And then kind of in the background, you start sending out note cards to your sphere of influence, talking it up with your dentist while he's drilling your teeth. You know where I'm going with that, So, these are people that you need to create that emotional connection with. Okay, regardless of the source. Start your database today. So even if it's an Excel spreadsheet, you need to have a place to put all these folks in. So think about a week in the life of a realtor. Let's say your AC breaks down and the HVAC repair person comes to your house. You've never met him or her before. You start talking it up with real estate about real estate. You give that person your card. He gives you his card. That goes in your database. You never know where that's going to lead. You do an open house. You get 3 couples that walk in, 2 of which are not represented. They go in your database. You pull up the MLS, you look at expired listings in the past 7 days, you see 4 in your neighborhood. Those 4 go in your database. Worry about who they are and the quality later, okay? But all those examples are actually, in my mind, very high quality, okay? Because eventually you're gonna rate them and you're gonna weed out the people that just have no business being in your database. But you are not gonna have any framework of organization unless you have a framework of organization, and that is your database. So just as a reminder, for 15 bucks a month, you can get your website and your own database that sends out email campaigns and marketing and all that. So you're basically paying for the hosting. So if you don't have one, you want one, let me know. Not mandatory, but it's worth it. So step 2 is the how. So how do you make all this happen? So I always recommend time blocking to stay on track. I'm going to go into that in a second. Prepare the day before how many calls you're going to make the next day. Okay, there's nothing worse than waking up and pressuring yourself, knowing that you want to do something, you have to do something in real estate, you just don't know what it is. And so it's far less stress to wake up that next day having done this the night before. And if you do have that database, you can set up a task that says, well, I talked to Jim at this open house. I need to talk to him again 4 days from now. And you track Jim 4 days from now and it pops up in your calendar. And now you know you've got to call Jim. Okay. Design your prospecting plan. Okay. So open houses as your funnel of business look a lot different than attending a Rotary meeting or reaching out to expired listings, right? Rotary meetings during the week, you know, so maybe it's a Wednesday night at 7 o'clock, but open houses and expireds are only on weekends. And so, but if you know that going in, then maybe it's okay to take Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to do something else you want to do. You don't have to be working 24 hours a day. You're going to get burned out really quickly. But this gives you permission to do that. So if your entire business, and I know plenty of agents that only get business from open houses, only get business from expireds, only do FSBOs, only do investments. If that's your one thing, and that thing happens on the weekend, let that be your reality. It's not a big deal. Okay, step 3 is the win. And there's just one bullet point in here, 2 to 3 hours every day for prospecting new business. Okay, every day. All right, so I wrestle with this slide because because this looks a little bit different for each person, but I think that whether you're part-time, full-time, brand new, not brand new, I think at a minimum, there are some things that you can set on autopilot or things that are very low time cost to you that you could be doing that are seemingly effortless that will get you business. Okay. One is make sure you create your one-page resume. Okay? And that is under our marketing tab right here. For those of you that do not know what this is an extension of your business card. And I have written this for you. And all you have to do is replace what I have with your picture, your contact information. But I've already written in our company info about you, why you're valuable to both sellers and buyers, and what other people say about me. This is generic, but it's not generic. Whether you guys believe it or not, I could have said no to all of you. And you're here because you possess everything on this page. So don't be afraid to use this. This is what people want to hear when they hire a realtor. So as you get transactions, you can certainly sub out these pictures for pictures of sold houses. But this is your calling card, man. And this is part of the buyer presentation and seller presentation. Why? Because you're going to go in and talk to people and they're going to remember 10% of what you said. And it's only going to be the 10% that they want to remember. You're going to want to leave behind something that speaks to who you are and how you can help them. That's what this is. A business card just doesn't cut it. Okay. Okay. Put together 5 listings and 5 buyer packets so that you can hand them out when necessary. So those are on the buyer seller leases tab in our website, and they're towards the top, and they're zipped files because there's about 8 or 9 other files in there, one of which is the one-page resume. But because you're new, you don't know what to leave behind. I think a lot of people, I mean, they won't, I've heard people not do anything because they don't have their business cards yet. And so if that's the case, then I can imagine how much more compounded that is if you don't have these packets put together. Because we only work with 2 kinds of customers, buyers and sellers. So you've got to have something to be able to give them, even if it's just to make yourself feel better. And so the more of that you can get in people's hands, the more memorable you're going to be. So this is busy work, right? Let's get to the brass tacks. Add 5 people to your database weekly. Theoretically, you should do this daily. That's the goal. But if you add 1 a day, you're doing good. Okay, and this is going to be hard work, but you're going to have to add 1 person a day. Create a Google My Business page and feed it often. So Google My Business, I've done a video on this before. It is free. They give you your own website if you want it. It's the Facebook for Google, and you don't have to have a physical address as a realtor. And pictures really gain traction. But what this does is that this replaces you as a realtor being in an office, a physical office. Okay. It says, if I'm looking for realtors in Austin or realtors in San Antonio or realtors in Aubrey, Texas, you are more likely to come up in that search on Google if you have a Google My Business page. And if you want to really juice the rankings, like I said here, feed it often with posts and, more importantly, photos or videos. Okay, 5 note cards a day to anyone. Find a reason to thank someone for something. So go to Half Price Books, spend $8 on 30 note cards. And what resonates most with people is humor, babies, and pets. If you can't find that, just get something like a scenic picture or something, blank in the middle, put your business card in there. And I would come up with maybe 1 or 2 phrases that you always say to whoever it is. Like, say, if it's a friend, you're going to say one thing. If it's the vendor, HVAC repair person, you're going to say something else. But you can always find something to thank someone for, or something to say about someone. Even if it's just you haven't talked to someone in a while and you feel embarrassed because you haven't reached out. Hey, Jim, I know we haven't talked in a while. I hope you're doing well. Hugs and kisses. Jeff Koppel. Put your card in there. You're going to get a call. I guarantee it. If you are at a loss for what to say, I have that. Under business building. And it is under thank you note templates. Okay, so if you truly have a mental block, go here, business building, thank you note templates. Okay. Also go to Business Building and use something called Blueprint for Follow-Up, because the single reason realtors do not succeed or get discouraged really quickly is because they don't realize that it takes 15 touches for someone to even acknowledge that they exist. So what does that mean? Follow-up is critical. And so I demystify what to send, who to send it to, when to send it, and what the overall goal is in that one 6-page document. Okay, and then host an open house, 1 a month, more if you can. So at a minimum, do these things. I think that's it. Yes. So you'll notice that some of the items on here are passive. I mean, if you're sitting back, you know, watching the auditions on The Voice for 2 hours on Monday and Tuesday, you can be sending out 5 note cards. Okay. And I'm not asking you to do an open house every weekend, although you're going to increase your chances 4-fold if you do, but do 1 a month. And if you don't get any business from it, you're doing it wrong. And I'm going to do a series on this on an open house in a couple of weeks, but you're talking to the motivated. How could you not get business from an open house? Okay. So this is at a minimum what you could be doing as a new agent. So your resources. So these are all on our website. So if you go under Business Building, which is where we are now, at the very bottom, there's this one heading called Business Sources Lead Generation. So if you are completely at a loss for where to get business, download the warm, cold lead sources. And so there is such a thing as a warm lead, a cold lead, and a neutral lead. Warm lead is someone that already knows, likes, and trusts you. A cold lead is someone that you wouldn't know if they walked in the door. That's, hey, I have a personality that wants to just walk up to a total stranger and talk real estate. That is not me. But if that is you, these are those buckets. Okay. So these might spark some ideas for you. Also download 53 ways to get more listings, and more importantly, 101 ways to lead generate. So there are literally 101, I think, items on here. 1 or 2 of these are going to resonate with you. You know, you walk into a garage sale, that's an easy one. They only happen on the weekends. It's great weather for it now. They're having a garage sale for one of 2 reasons. They're decluttering or they're moving. And what a great way to meet your neighbors. But there are lots of other ways to do it. 101 to be exact. So take a look at this as a means to help you understand from where you're going to get business. Okay. Work by referrals. This is the long game. Work by referral is up here, Blueprint for Working by Referral. So some of you may have heard of Brian Buffini. He is a real estate coach, and this is all he does is preach work by referral. I have purchased his program so that you guys don't have to. A lot of this is what that is. And then a little bit of my own creation thrown in. But it assigns a structure and a process to this. You can't just hope that by knowing a lot of people that you're going to get business. You got to get focused. Okay. Business planning template. This is also on our website under business building, and it's right here. And this is an Excel spreadsheet that really helps you understand and get clear on what your goal for the year is going to be. And then it breaks it down by telling you how many people you have to talk to get to that number, how many closings you have to get to that number, how many people are going to be buyers, how many will be sellers. But it really, in some cases, alarmingly so, makes you aware of just how many people you actually have to talk to get to that number. Okay. A good living in real estate is about 12 closings a year, and that's 1 a month. And that doesn't seem like a whole lot, but for people that are doing 12 or less, you can probably attest it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and which means you got to talk to a lot of people. Okay. We already talked about, well, I did talk about the blueprint for follow-up, but that's here as well. Blueprint for follow-up. How to follow up with all sources of business. And like I mentioned before, on the left is what you send them. On the horizontal piece, that's who. So your sphere of influence, expired listings, open houses, online leads, so on. And the X's correspond to the what you send to them and the audience. You're not going to send everything to everybody. It's not going to make sense. Okay. And then down below, I tell you how to communicate it out and how often. Okay. This is the very non-sexy part of the job, because no one sees you doing this at night, watching The Voice, you know, in your pajamas, sending out note cards, sending out vendor booklets to your sphere of influence. That is not my idea of driving around in a sports car, making a lot of money, but you got to do it. All right. That is what follow-up is. And then lastly is dollar productive activities. So if you are at a complete loss for what you should be doing, even after this little session, there is a document here called Dollar Productive Activities. As the title suggests, and this was put out by a title company that one of our agents actually provided for me years ago. This will get you to a closing. All these things lead to money. All these things lead to a paycheck. And there's 2 pages worth. Okay, even with instructions on how to do it. So if you are at a loss for anything to do, this gets you out there and engaged in the business of real estate. Okay, so that is kind of the best I could do in kind of structuring where I see a new agent and where they need to be, and kind of maybe mindset wise what's going on. Does anyone have any stories or experiences they want to relay to the group? What's been any of y'all's biggest obstacle or biggest success? What do you wish you had known when you first started?
Well, I'll just mention that one of the best things I do a lot of the time is wear my name badge.
Mhm.
And that has just spurs conversations probably better than anything. And then follow that up with a card. I have not done the 1-page resume as a handout or anything, but my dad's been in and out of hospitals this whole year and in and out of nursing homes. And every time I visit him, I have my name badge on. And it does 2 things for me psychologically. It helps me feel like I'm really working because just putting the name badge on kind of feels like, hey, I'm putting myself out there and that's part of my work, you know, to be able to talk to people about things. And I can't tell you how many conversations have come up just strictly from that.
Well, and that's been my experience too. And it's no wonder that that is an actual item on the onboarding checklist. And that's exactly why I recommend that, because that happened to me. I got a listing appointment as a result of what you're describing, Becky. So thank you for that.
I would say too that a lot of this stuff happens impromptu. Like a lot of the construction and real estate clients I've met, I've been hot and sweaty in a Home Depot or Lowe's or something like that, and paint store. I mean, just you don't have to necessarily prepare all the time. People are willing to listen to you if you have the right information that they're needing to hear.
For sure. And I think that a lot of the public sees us as, high pressure, and people that would rather just get the sale than get to know someone. And so the person you're describing is relatable. And so it's no wonder that happens.
I always said I'd never be a straight commission sales guy. I have been for the last 21 years in construction. So it's, and me and my wife are both negative pressure. I mean, we're not high pressure at all, but we see that a lot of people That's why we get a lot of businesses, because we do not pressure people
Right.
where a lot of our competition does. So.
Yep. Absolutely. Joyce, how about you? I know that this is kind of year 2 for you, and you've had some successes and experiences. Do you have anything to share with the team?
Mine has been kind of, COVID really put a damper in things. My
Mhm.
first year was really, really great. And then the second year has just been, it's just been very, very different, trying to kind of figure out, okay, so was the first year real? Kind of how it would be or not be, and trying to kind of gauge that. So it's kind of, time does take time, and it's not going to be immediate. And I knew that going into it, I guess. I just didn't know really how severe it would be. For me also, it's kind of come down to that I wish that I would have gotten into it when I still had littles, where I was PTA president, band booster club president, all of those where I had all of that network to be able to utilize and go to, because they did know and trust me,
Yeah.
and now they're, most of them have moved on, but it's kind of, the cool part about that is all those volunteer hours that I worked the bus and I sprayed the kids down from band as they got on, and things like that, they're boomeranging around. So 2 kids that used to be my stinky band kids, have come back around and are buying houses from me. So, even though their parents may be well established, those kids remember the impression that you made in them. And so, and they loved and trusted me. So
Yeah.
Once the word kind of gets out, so I guess I'm just dealing with a different generation than I thought I would have been. If
Right.
that makes sense at all.
Yeah.
But, and just keep going the distance and trying to learn it, as best as you can.
Sure. Sure. Good. Well, thank you. Anybody else?
I will share something I stumbled upon. So like Joy said, I serve on the booster for our local high school, and we needed a credit card machine for the concession stand. So I serve as a treasurer, so I was applying for this credit card machine, and they needed a personal guarantor. So I had to use my credit profile, my name and everything. And I'm getting to the point, but so what I realized is that as everybody swipes that credit card, they're going to see my name come up on their statement. And I'm like, well, what an interesting opportunity, I never even considered that. I just stumbled upon that. So I registered the credit card name under callmejc.com, and there you go. So we'll see what transpires. I'll keep you posted.
That's great. That's great. That reminds me of a story that I often tell, in that if you are struggling to be in the right place at the right time and be in front of as many people as you can, and that whole volume play, JC, was what made me think of this, is that I knew a guy with Remax that he would sponsor a bounce house at, I don't remember what it was. Let's just say it was a festival, but it could be anywhere. It could be a festival. It could be a neighborhood garage sale. It could be anywhere. And what he would do is he would have to get a waiver for the kids to go in there. What goes on a waiver? Your name, address, phone number, email. And so all of a sudden, and now mind you, it was obvious that he was a realtor. So just let me put that out there. So it wasn't duplicitous that way, but but that is one way that he was able to get contact information from potential clients. Another way is that if you, and I'm just trying to think of inexpensive, low cost, low effort, but really strategic ways to get business. So another way, you spend a couple of $100 for a booth at a festival, and it is the season for that, and do a raffle, for a TV or something big. First of all, realtors aren't typically at those things. And so any question that anyone ever wanted to ask you, they're going to ask you. And so you will have interaction. But think about what information goes on a raffle ticket. So same principle. And where should they go after the raffle's drawn? In your database, right? So, and I don't know, those aren't examples of too terribly qualified leads, but you could apply that same principle to other scenarios where it's pretty low cost. But anyway, that's kind of what reminded me of that. Any other stories? What advice would you guys give to a brand new agent?
Don't become an Amway salesman. In other words, not too high pressure. Don't alienate everybody you know because you're trying to ram your new career down their throat.
Good point. Anybody else?
I would say too, probably about 6 to 9 months into your first year, go ahead and start taking your SAE classes for your 2-year up, because that is a ton of classes that you have to take in hours to fit all of that in to make sure that's done. Don't let it come down to the wire and not have it finished.
Yeah.
It's just not worth the stress level.
Good advice. Good advice. What else? Anybody have any cool stories? Well, I did want to welcome some folks today that are new. So Chris and Ellie and I guess that's it. That's brand new. So they joined this week. So welcome to you guys. Hope you found the meeting beneficial. So, obviously the next step is just kind of get organized, get clear, and determine from where you want to get business and just jump in and start it. If you haven't guessed already, I love doing this. I love coaching and teaching. And I love to see people get that first closing. And there are 1,000,001 ways to get it. And so your personality is going to naturally attract those that you should be working with. And so don't be afraid to give yourself a gut check and realize that if there's a red flag early on, that red flag is going to be on fire by the time you get to the end of that transaction. And so do yourself a favor and just work with those folks that are easy to work with, want to work with you, and want to listen to your advice. But I am always here. Like I said earlier, I do this full time. So if you haven't set up a time with me, please don't be afraid to do so. And my vision of success is whatever your vision of success is. I just don't ever want you guys to feel like you're overwhelmed, unsupported, or directionless in this effort, because you're not. It's not just me, but you have everyone else on this call and 110 other people in the brokerage to help you. So awesome. Well, with that, we're just a little bit past the hour, so I will sign off. But thank you guys so much for hanging in, and reach out if you need me. But you guys have a great rest of the week. We'll see ya.
Thanks, Brad.